Exciting news. The Leading Below the Surface podcast is now available on YouTube. So now you will not only be able to stream your favorite episodes on your smartphone in your favorite app, which is probably Apple or Spotify, but you will also be able to watch the episodes in video format. Visit our Change Coaches YouTube page to be able to subscribe to the podcast and not miss an episode. Are you wanting to close the year out strong? Our Change Coaches offerings include everything from retreat facilitation to leadership accelerators. Check out changecoaches.io for more information or email us at info@changecoaches.io to find out how we can support you and your organization in 2024 and beyond. Welcome to the Leading Below the Surface podcast, where we go beyond the book and explore how to navigate and thrive in today's changing workplace. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Leading Below the Surface podcast. I'm your host, LaTonya Wilkins, and I'm so excited for our guest today, as you can see. So she is the author of the Seven Rules of Self-Reliance, which I've been thumbing through. And she's also has a very interesting career and has worked with some very, very interesting people that you may know, including Gary Vee. And she was introduced to me through another friend that I've known for quite some time. We met in different social circles. And so I'd love to welcome Maha. So Maha, how are you today?
I'm so grateful to be here. How are you?
Good, good. It's we're recording this right before the US Thanksgiving holiday. I think it's the Friday before. So I'm
Yep.
really looking forward to taking some time off. How about yourself?
I love turkey and football. It's like my favorite combination of how to spend a day off in sweatpants,
Oh,
watching television, watching football, playing games with the family, and just kind of chilling out. You know, the best thing about taking a break is everyone else is on break. So no
right.
one's looking for you because it's kind of hard when you go on vacation knowing that office is still running, people are still working. You might be like, it's always in the back of your head, like, can you completely disconnect? And Thanksgiving are those 4 days where everyone can completely disconnect, and it's a special time of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. So who's your team? So you said football.
Yeah, so I'm a huge sports junkie. Like,
Okay.
I'm from Minnesota, so, like, I gotta represent the
Oh,
Vikings.
okay, okay.
I love watching the Vikings, but I also have, like, favorite players. Like, I love Josh Allen, who plays for the Buffalo Bills. You know, I'm a huge Swiftie, so I'm always keeping my eye on what Travis Kelce's doing. So, like, my team is definitely the Vikings, but I have certain players that I kinda really love to follow, and so I like to just see what they're up to.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, obviously I'm a Bears fan. Unfortunately. I've been caught in
Oh,
this
good.
forever. But
I grew up with the '80s, so, like, it was the Bears and, like, the days of Mike Ditka and the Refrigerator Perry and Jim McMahon and those were like the OG days. Like, the Bears were the team.
yeah, well, that's went away. That it never came back. So unfortunately, like, yeah, we have to deal with a lot of disappointment. But yeah, Caleb Williams, I think we're cautiously optimistic about him, but we'll see. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a lot of pressure when you're a new rookie and a new system and offensive coordinators are changing and coaches. I mean, it's a lot of pressure for anyone coming in, especially your number 1 draft pick, but, you know, he'll find his rhythm.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see, hopefully. Well, so you've been doing this whole book tour, right? So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that. How's that been going?
I will tell you one thing I learned through this process. Writing a book is easy. Selling a book is hard, right? So the whole publishing world is a very different dynamic than what we're used to in digital or media and communication. So like learning process, I think was a big learning curve for me. But like book tour, I basically did New York, Miami, LA, Chicago, DC, Dubai, Riyadh. I did international and national, and not just doing press, but like doing bookstores and signings and talks and really trying to get out as front of as many audiences as possible and doing podcasts and stuff like that. It's been so much fun.
So what's been the most so I personally when you're making me think back to my book tour, and I love the
Yeah.
signings. I love the bookstores and the book talks. But what's been your favorite part?
Well, I went to this bookstore in Miami called the Books and Books in Coral Gables. It's like one of the oldest bookstores in the country. And it was like a library, like wall to wall books. You had the ladders, just having the conversations with people, meeting readers, talking to them about the book. It's been really, really fun. I think that's my favorite part of the book tour was getting to go to the bookstores and then really trying I like every time I went into a bookstore, like, I love books, I'm like, I'm buying books, and then I'm, like, carrying more books, but, I'm a lover of the craft. I love holding a book, I love collecting books, I love underlining my books. A lot of people can't ever borrow my books because 'cause I've, like, marked them up and dog-eared all the pages, but it's been fun.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's like such a blast,
What
right?
about you? What did you love about your book launch?
I mean, I think one of the like I said, I think the biggest thing was the readings at bookstores or walking into my neighborhood bookstore and seeing my book in there. I would say the other ones were when I did, I was doing a lot of keynotes and when yeah, people would come up, and I'd sign their book and it was completely marked up and yeah, I mean, I would say that that was my favorite part, but as we were talking about before, it's not all that. It's not all great. It's hard launching a book, and
Yeah, it
um,
is hard lunch.
yeah,
And
yeah.
craft stores. Yeah, I'll tell you 2 fun stories. One is I was flying from Miami to Chicago, and I was getting off the plane, and, you get out of your seat, and you, like, put your laptop in your bag and all this kind of stuff, and there was a gentleman in the seat in front of me who had a copy of my book, and he was reading it on the plane. It was, like, such a meta moment for me, like, I, like, read this
Wow.
guy was, like, reading a book, and then I was like, he's putting the book in his briefcase because he had finished reading it on the plane. He had been on the plane for 4 hours, and then I was like, "How's the book?" And he's like, "Oh my god, this book's incredible." Then he pulls it out and he shows me all of, like, the Post-it notes and the underlining he did on the 4-hour flight, and then I told him I'd written that book, and it was such a weird and a rewarding moment, but then he was like then he realized I was the author, and then he knew a lot of stuff about me, so he's like, "Oh, I wanna ask you about this and this and this and this," so that was, like, a super fun moment. And then I think, like, one time I went into a Barnes& and Noble and walked into the front desk, and I'm like, "I'm looking for a book called Seven Rules of Self-Reliance by Maha Abouelenein," and then just, like, waiting for her to, like, type it in and look it up and then walk us to the spot to see if we can find it. It was the first time actually after my book came out that I went into a bookstore to see it. It's just so surreal, and then they're like, "Oh, you're the author," and I'm like, "Yeah," and then so they had me sign some books, in the bookstore, and then they put, like, a sticker on it
Oh,
saying authors.
wow.
It was
Yeah.
just so but I was like, "What if they don't have it?" Like, I was like, "Oh, this" we were filming it with my niece had her phone. I'm like, "What if we get there and they're like, 'Oh, we don't have this book,' or 'We don't have any copies,'" or I was like, "Oh," but they had it, so it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's isn't that fun? It's like when I was it reminds me when I was first you know, like, launching my book, and I got out there and just going to conferences and people are like, "Oh my gosh, can you sign my book?" And you're like, "Oh, wow, people recognize." And I went to the grocery store the other day here in Chicago, and
Somebody recognized
someone
you.
whose book I had signed somewhere else was at the grocery store. And so we were
And
talking, and
I
it's such a small world, and, yeah, it's so grateful.
I
I
love
mean, so
the
much gratitude,
yeah.
right?
I'll tell you that one observation I have, and I think I'm seeing it in the market, is that books are becoming more respected and appreciated now. They're coming back.
Right,
Like
right.
people are tired of being, screen fatigued and being in front of their computers all day. And even, they want to like have that quiet time, that solitude, that reading, that learning. Like people are valuing that more and more. And there has been a resurgence in some genres that haven't been popular before, like the romantic fantasy novels or some different genres that are really becoming super popular. People enjoy reading again. People enjoy that quiet time and solitude. And, we're on our computers all day and then we're on our social media all day. So having that time to spend it with the book, even if it's just 10 minutes a day, is becoming something that not only is a trend, but people are really enjoying buying books, collecting books, reading books. And obviously it's great for authors, but it just talks to the testament of the value of the product of holding something in your hand and reading it. It's sort of like a meditative process, like where you can do it in a plane or do it when you're at home or sitting in front of the fireplace on this long holiday weekend, finding time to just learn and use the book as a format to be that method.
Yes. Yeah, that's not surprising to me because there's so
Really?
much because there's so much AI out there now too, and so, like, when you said
Right.
fantasy, it's like, I think people are looking for something that feels novel and that feels authentic. Like, I was on this LinkedIn Top Voices video session yesterday, and we were talking about the power of video. And like, so many people were like, well, LinkedIn was talking about basically how video is skyrocketing because people don't want to hear from like the CNBCs or the big places. They want to hear from people that are
Real
actually in
people.
this every day. Yeah. And not AI or
People in the trenches.
manufactured
Yeah.
facts. And so I'm loving it. I'm loving to see this. And so I would love to move into your book and like talking a little
Oh,
bit about
of
it.
course.
I've been thumbing through it, and when I first saw the title, I was like, "Oh my gosh," cuz for me, leading below the surface is all about empathy, it's all about being selfless, it's all about connecting. And when I saw self-reliance, I was like, "Oh, that sounds really selfish. Like what's up with that?"
Yeah.
So, maybe let's
The
talk about
word
that.
self yeah, the word self really kind of puts people off, like, it's
Yeah.
about selfish, and you will read this book, and people who have read it, like, the title is, Seven Rules of Self-Reliance, so it's like, "Oh, she's teaching us how to be independent and not need anybody." Actually, the book is the exact opposite. It's about empowering yourself and investing in yourself first before you lead out a hand asking for something from your employer or if you're an entrepreneur from your team. What can you do to rely on yourself to invest in yourself first? Can you build relationships? Are you good at networking? Are you building your personal brand and your reputation? Are you creating value for other people? Are you creating the opportunities you want to see in your life? So I'm turning it on its head. Self reliance is not about not needing anybody or not needing
Mm.
help or not with other people. It's saying, hey, I have a responsibility myself to take the first step on what I am capable of doing or what I want to see in my life. So many times we are waiting for permission from others. We are expecting others to bring opportunities to us, or we're expecting other people to invest in us. When we have the capability to do it on our own, this is the new playbook for how to operate in today's world. It's do for yourself first before reaching out your hand, asking for others to help.
Mm. So it's not like, because what I was thinking is the saying, if you want something done, you got to do it yourself. So it's not that. Okay.
No, not
Okay.
at all.
Great. Great.
If you want something done,
Right.
invest in yourself so that you can be of value to other people. One of the chapters here is called Be a Value Creator. How can you rely on yourself to create value for other people? Anticipate needs, deliver something that they probably don't know that they need. How can I create value for you? I think about asking you a very simple question. How can I help? What are the things that you're interested in? What are the things you're trying to solve? What are some challenges you're facing? Can I introduce you to someone who might unlock that for you and be of value to you? So I rely on myself to bring the value.
Mhm.
I rely on myself to be that X factor for you. I don't expect other people to hand it to me so I can pass it on to you.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. That's a little bit different. Yeah. That's kind of like,
Way to frame
yeah.
it.
It's like
Exactly.
how I was raised. Like, you have
Exactly.
to like
Yeah.
really go after what you want. It's like the work ethic. And I was raised in a very like working class family, and so that was always our mentality, like relying on yourself, hard work, and not waiting for others to do something for you, but also asking for
Exactly.
what you need. And so, what made you write a book about this? Was there something that happened in your life? Like, what?
Yeah, actually, I thought about so I've been working for 30 years, 20 years as an entrepreneur. I had two full-time jobs in my career, working for General Mills and sports marketing, working for Google, head of communications and global public policy out of Dubai. And I really felt when I looked at the through line for my career, what were the things that I was consistently doing? Because that's the lessons there. And it was relying on myself when I needed to find the answers, relying on my skills, my experience, my relationships, and my knowledge. And those are sort of like the four kind of things I think when I think about, oh, I want to hold all the cards in my hand. What are those cards? So let's take, for example, networking. Everyone hates
Mm.
networking. It's daunting, it's difficult. How do you do it through social media? How do you do it through LinkedIn? How do you do it through Zooms or Teams calls? Like, how do I network with people in my organization? And you know what I thought about? I thought about the importance of building your own network. So if I need something, I don't want to say, hey, I need your network to get something done for my client. So I want to rely on myself to know how to be good at building relationships. I want to rely on myself to know how to be good at building my network. And having a network is not about them doing favors for you or getting you tickets to a game or a job for a relative. It's about serving your network so that you do a good job of showing up for them, nurturing it
Mm,
so that they can bring you into their network, right? So it's a currency. I feel there's two things that are currencies in this world. One is having the right relationships, and two, your reputation. Because if you have a good reputation, you have a good personal brand, opportunities will come to you. You'll be able to open more doors for yourself or for your network. You'll be able to create value for other people. It's like a push and pull. Like either I have to proactively work hard so people know who I am and what I do, or if I have a good reputation of delivering results and bringing value to people, opportunities will come to
mm.
me.
Well, I love this example about networking. So maybe can we dive into this just a little bit more? Because
Yeah.
I always talk about networking kind of below the surface, but so how do people do? So everybody's always thinking about like networking and how to leverage their network or work towards the big ask, right? That's the ask where you want that big introduction or you want that raise. Like, what are some of the, reflecting on the rules of self reliance? What kind of advice can you give folks for that?
Okay. Easy. This one, don't go for the ask.
Mm,
First, I say for I think about it in a couple ways. One is be a long-term player, right? How can you make continuous deposits in somebody's trust bank so you can make that withdrawal, i.e.
mm,
ask? So deliver
love that.
first. Be a value first. Don't go for the ask right away, you know? Spend time building a relationship, getting to know them, maybe serve them, maybe introduce them to someone, send them an article. Be a value first. Like I don't like this give and take of like I do something to get something in
Hmm.
return. I think of it of more of a long-term play. So if you're thinking, I want to build this relationship with a really powerful person because I want to go for the ask, take a couple steps back.
Mm,
Find out how you can build equity, build a relationship. And don't think about it of how do I leverage my network? I want you to think about how do I serve my network?
hmm.
So when you approach your relationships in a giving opportunity first, that's a better foot to be on than going in to say, how am I going to be in a taking opportunity?
Hmm. Yeah, it's like the give and take model from Adam
Yeah.
Grant. And
Matters.
yeah,
I really think it matters.
right.
Like, I feel like if you can be that person that people can always rely on, trust, you show up for them, you're consistent in how you're delivering results for them, then you can make the ask. But I don't create a relationship to get the ask right away. I think, how do I create value for them? Should I connect them to someone? Could I be a super connector? Connect them to someone that's important for them. Unlock a problem or two for them that they care about. That shows you're intentional. It shows you're listening. It shows you value the relationship and you want to do good for them. But it also shows you're not there to do a hit and run, to take it and leave, to get what you need and get out of there. You're trying to consistently show up for them in a way that matters to them.
Mm. What would you say to someone that said, "My gosh, that takes way too long." Like, I feel like I've sent, like, 5 articles, or maybe I've sent, like, 5 things to add value, and this person still isn't noticing me. What would you say to that?
I mean, it happens, right? It does happen where you consistently show up for somebody and they're not delivering or they're not. But how did you frame the ask? Did you make the
Mhm.
ask? Give them the reasonable information because a lot of times people it's like I need your help with something. Be specific about what you need. If is it time sensitive, is it, look, you have to be specific of what your ask is and what the relationship is to what you're trying to create. And I feel, you know networking and networks are very transparent processes. Like you'll know right away if that's something they're able to help with or they're not able to help with. And I like to treat my networks the same way that the way they treat me. Like if there's something I can do, I help. And if I can, I said, listen, I really can't help you with this. It's a heavy lift. I don't know. I'm going to try to think of somebody who can do it, but be really honest about your capabilities so that you don't string that person along.
Yeah. I love that because the asking, it's so funny because isn't that
Ask.
surprising how many people don't ask? Even I do that. I do that too, and I'm like, "Why isn't this person noticing me? Like, what is going on? Like, why?" And then, like, one of my friends, like, I have a lot of coach friends, will be like, "Well, did you ask?" Did you ask what did you ask for? Did you ask for anything specific? And I'm like, "Oh, duh. Okay. Yeah." 'Cause it's like it's almost like a step that you have to be really intentional about, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna read you something for the book, which is why I put my glasses on. Okay, so how about being a long-term player? Seek to know what others value and focusing on delivering that. Creating value behind the scenes.
Mm.
What can you do to bring somebody behind the scenes? So let me give you an example. So we're on this podcast today. I am going to create value for you behind the scenes. What does that mean? Or how do I build my relationship with you? Is it me sharing the podcast with my audience? Is it me telling somebody to text message, send 10 of my friends, this is a link. I really want you to subscribe to my friend's podcast because I love this show and I feel like you'll get some nuggets out of it. Is it me connecting you to a guest that you want to have on a future show? That's networking. That's adding value. That's the thing I think a lot of people don't think of networking is. It's like, is it getting a job or is it making an introduction? It could be as something as very low lift of me spending 10 minutes a day, which is what I do, networking on social media, sharing my friends' posts, commenting on what they're doing, looking at what's going on in their world, making sure I'm staying attentive to what's important to them. Are they traveling? What events are they speaking at? Is there something I can do to help promote what they're working on? That's a low lift. It takes no time and no money, and you're showing up for people consistently. Could you put 10 minutes in your calendar to go network on your LinkedIn and Instagram or whatever platform you use most to create value for people in your network? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's almost like that saying where, you know, the people that talk about you when you're not in the room are the people that you really want in your life, and there's a couple folks like that that I've gotten
Yeah.
business like, I'm like, "Oh, they referred me?" So it's like what you're saying. It's like,
So
yeah, I'm like,
cool.
"Oh, I had no idea."
Where you
Behind
didn't
the
expect
scenes.
it, is where you didn't expect it. Yeah, 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 and that's where you didn't expect
Right.
it, right? Because that's the relationship of the intentional, like, people who are really creating value for you when you A, you didn't even ask for it, and B, where you didn't even know that they were making a connection.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so what are the rules? What are the 7 rules? Like, let's go through
Okay,
those.
great. Let's dive in. The first rule is stay low, keep moving. So we live in a world today where there's so many distractions, right? Comparing on social media, doubting. Like there's if you have a goal that you really, really care about, how much time are you dedicating to kind of putting the blinders on to focus on it so that you don't get distracted by your clients, your family, whatever happening in your life? Can you carve out time to focus on what you need to do? So it's not about being low profile. It's like stay low. If you are self reliant, you understand if you want to achieve your goals, you need to kind of put a little focus effort on to make it happen because you recognize all the distractions that happen in
Mm.
the world today.
I love that, staying low, and I think is like disconnecting from too much political news. Is that staying low, would you say? Yeah,
Yeah,
or
that's staying low. And
scrolling too much on social media, and
yeah,
yeah,
because, like, it can consume a lot of
right,
time where it's like I always love this example about, if you're just sitting in front of your inbox fielding things all day, you're just taking
right,
other people's priorities, interrupting your day. Like, I like to close my inbox for an hour so I can write something that I need to focus on because otherwise I'll just sit and just respond to people all day, and those are other people's priorities, not necessarily mine. Even though they're important, they might be distracting me from achieving a goal that I have to do
right,
today. So I think that's part. And it's not about being low profile. It's like, okay, I just need to know when I need to turn it off so I can focus. And then keep moving because you're going to have distractions. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have bumps in the road. You're going to have urgent things that come up. So, like, knowing that you got to have this mindset of putting your head down to get the work done. A lot of people want to put in the hard work, but worrying about the recognition or am I going to get credit? Or I'm like, if you do the hard work, the work will speak for itself. So that's rule number one. Rule number two is be a value creator. What can you do to create value for other people? Is it something that they're trying to unlock for their business? Is it an introduction? Is it an idea? Is it a relationship? Is it supporting them? It's a small thing, but can be a big thing. So, oh, what can I do to create value for my family? What can I do to create value for my colleagues at work? What can I do to create value for my customers or my audience? Find a way to find a value chain or a value proposition that you can do for them. That's rule number two. Rule number three, which is everyone gets stuck on this one, don't be a waiter.
hmm,
Often we're waiting. We're waiting to lose weight. We're waiting for more money in the bank account. We're waiting for everything to be lined up. We're waiting because we fear failure. We're waiting because we don't want permission from others. We're waiting because we're stuck in analysis paralysis on trying to make a decision. You know what happens when you're waiting? You're sitting in your comfort zone and you're waiting for things to get right and you're waiting for the ducks to be in a row, and they won't be.
Mhm.
Take the first step. Take the first move. So many people see this rule and they're like, "Oh shit, I think I've been a waiter. I've been waiting. I've been waiting for an opportunity to come to me when I probably have the capabilities to nudge it along myself. I'm just waiting for
Yeah,
permission."
I love this, like, waiting for permission, number 1, and number 2, this is something that I did earlier as an entrepreneur. I would wait for a client to get back to me, and I would have, like, a list of 2 clients, and I was waiting for them to get back to me, and I was, like, hinging my business future success on these 2 people instead of going back out and,
Yeah,
finding more
taking
sales.
initiative.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just feel like so often we're waiting for the right
right.
opportunity. Like yesterday, I did a round table with some women here in Minnesota, and they were like, I have this idea for this business, and I'm just, waiting for the right opportunity to start it. Like, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to do it. And I'm like, what are you waiting for? And then when she thought about it, she's like, nothing really. I know what I want to do. I just scared to take that first step because I don't want people to judge me. I don't want people to say, who does she think she is doing that business? And I said, "Well, that's a terrible way to live because you live your life in your lane and you know what's right for you. And everyone's on a different journey and path. And, who are we to judge what other people are doing? We mostly judge ourselves more than anyone else judges
Mhm.
us."
Yes.
Okay, rule number 4, unlearn, relearn, and invest in yourself. This is the premise of not waiting for somebody to invest in you. Like, I'm waiting for my manager to take me to training so that I can get promoted. Like, you can learn anything today on the internet for free. YouTube videos are for free, podcasts are for free. Meeting with someone to learn about their business or how that industry works is for free. So, how much time are you spending in the course of a week or a month trying to learn something new? Is it pickleball? Is it about ChatGPT? Is it about an application? Is it photos editing skills? Is it graphic design? What is it? Whatever you're passionate about, related to your job or not, you should have in your daily diet learning. We are living longer than we're ever going to live. We're living longer, we're making more money. Like our longevity is in a different framework. Our relationship with time has changed. We need to be learning.
Mm.
And I feel like unlearning is about what are things that are no longer serving us, that are no longer true, that we need to rewire our brains for. For example, where you went to school dictated who you were going to become, right? Back in the day. If you went to this college, you got this degree, that's what you became. That's not true anymore. A lot of companies don't even hire based on your CV and your education. They want to know, are you empathetic? Are you kind? Are you a team player? Are you resourceful? Are you reliable? So the framework of how the soft skills are playing a dominant role in how leaders are formed or made or managers are looking for talent, that's something we need to unlearn. That we need to unlearn that all walks of life from any industry can now play in the game. You don't necessarily have to have that skill from that industry to be good at that job.
Yeah, this also reminds me I love the concept of unlearning. Obviously it's a popular concept in coaching, and it's like unlearning how you respond to certain things or unlearning what expectations that you have because that kind of stuff keeps you small. And so I love this and just remembering how long we live. Like you're right. Like we could have several careers in our lives these days.
Yeah, and the careers are no longer linear. Like we don't just do one thing. In fact, they want you to, have a day job, but like have interests outside of work because that gives you more perspective and learning and insights from different. When you have inputs from multiple avenues, it makes you a better person because you're just not taking information from one framework or one perspective. Like I like to learn from different creators because I don't just want to listen to the same thing all the time. So I always switch it up, like what podcasts I listen to so that I don't just get stuck in one framework because the world is in abundance. It's never been a better time to be alive. You can get rich content from a variety of resources, people showing how they built their business, to how they make the cookies, to how they, you know, pack their suitcases, to how, I mean, you can learn anything from anyone.
Mhm. Mhm.
You never had access to this unlimited, unfiltered broadcast from anywhere to anyone in our lifetime.
Right. So all that free learning. What else? So what's the next one?
Okay, rule number 5, which is the biggest chapter of the book, it's treat your reputation like a currency. What's its worth and what's its value? Take out the word personal brand, throw it in the garbage, and replace it with the word reputation. Everybody needs to be thinking about their reputation. You have one, but do you really make an effort to build it and control it and to invest in it and to make it more valuable? That's what this chapter is about. How do you build your personal brand, i.e., reputation, online and offline? Because how you treat people in real life is far more important than how you treat them on social media,
Hmm.
right? So if you work at a company, you need to think about your personal brand because are you resourceful? Are you a good team player? Are you a good listener? That's your reputation at work. And you need to make sure people know what you stand for. And if you're an entrepreneur, you need to have a very strong reputation to attract the right talent, to attract the right investors, to attract the right suppliers or partners. All of that matters. And we live in a world where we live in cancel culture. Your reputation is everything.
Hmm.
It can be gone like this, or one video going viral can destroy your whole career. So really pay attention to it and be intentional about it. And don't think, well, I'm not a personal brand. I'm not an influencer. I don't need to worry about my reputation. You're wrong.
Yeah, it's like your reputation is greater than your personal brand, right? Because the personal brand
Yes.
feels very temporary to me. Like it's, yeah,
Feels very
right, right,
self-serving. It's not,
right,
I always talk about it's not about self-promotion. It's about idea
right.
promotion. It's not about self-promotion. It's about thought leadership. And it's really, really important that you just take a minute and think, what is my personal brand? Like what words would people use to describe me? Or what do I want my brand to be about? Like I want to be known as 1, 2, and 3. What are those 1, 2, and 3s?
Right, right.
Okay, that's number 5. Rule number 6, and we have 2 left, is be a long-term player, where we live in a world where people want instant gratification and we wanna tap to pay and get out of the store and download a whole season now. What if you were thinking about long-term benefits of showing up for someone, building your relationships? This is the chapter that talks in nauseam of how to network in today's digital world. And it gives you actual tips from being an entrepreneur to being an introvert to being an employee at a company where yesterday I was talking to some people from Target. Like, how do you network with people within your organization? Because those are a pool of people that either for lateral moves or they might leave the company and you want to know who these people are, like how to do that. And then the last rule, which is the most important, I think, is the rule of no regrets. Live with no regrets.
Mm,
Your story and the things that happen to you in your life don't define you. They are part of your story, but they're not your whole story. So, how do you take any struggles you faced and turn them into strengths? How do you take setbacks you faced and turn them into comebacks? So, that's a lot about the chapter that has to do with thinking about the context of, at the end of the day, what's the thing that's going to fulfill you the most so that you can't say, I woulda, shoulda, coulda.
mhm. So with the no regrets, that's an interesting one. What do you think about the concept of, self-compassion and forgiveness, like when it comes to
Yeah,
no
of course.
regrets?
I think we are harder on ourselves than other people are
Right.
on us. Like I said earlier, like nobody's judging you as much as you're judging yourself. Self-compassion is so important. We have to spend so much time trying to not give ourselves negative talk or limited beliefs. Like most of the time it's us doubting ourselves. It's us doubting our capabilities. It's us thinking I can't do something or not having the confidence to believe in ourselves to like go out there and do something we've never done before. Mostly because you've never been asked to do it, but you'd be surprised at what you're capable of doing when you actually get an at
Mhm.
bat at it.
Mm.
And I learned that the hard way. Like, if somebody asked me to do something, I'm like, I don't do that. And they're like, well, how do you know? Have you ever tried it before? And so you have to like put yourself in the arena to get that experience to understand. First of all, you'll learn so much about yourself, about what you think you're capable or not capable of doing. And you'll say, "You know what? That's not for me. I'm not gonna do that. I went through that experience so I can learn." And I think that's, self-compassion is a very important part of self-reliance, like understanding what you're capable of, having good self-awareness, knowing when you need to ask for help, knowing the pieces of the puzzle that you need to invest in yourself, and that's where it starts for me.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome. So let's get into our final exploration here, and that's how do we use some of these principles? And I'm looking. I have the book right here, folks. If you're not on YouTube, you can't see this, but I have it here, and I'm like, so I just want to take a crack at this first before Maha does, but I love the stay low, keep moving because I think there's so many distractions. There's so much FOMO. Sometimes we go on social when we don't need to be going on. We have no business on social. We need to be doing and having and keeping our heads down and keeping moving. Being a value creator, understanding what that value looks like, especially with your leadership, and then the third one that I really love for especially below the surface leadership is thinking of your reputation as a currency and like what do you know about your reputation and what insights does that give you into where you should focus? Because that's something like sometimes your fans you're not doing what your fans want you to do. And those are your biggest fans and those are the people that you're adding the most value to, but you're not following that path. You're not flowing with that river. You're going out and trying to find a whole nother group of people. And so
Yep.
understanding what your reputation is and using that as a North Star. How about you? What are some ways you would encourage people to be able to apply these concepts?
Yeah, I think it starts with how you manage your time, right? So think about, I have a thing called No Meeting Wednesdays on my calendar where I just kind of want to have a day where I can think and I can catch up on things. So I think if you want to stay low and keep moving and avoid distractions, look at how you spend your week. Could you take 1 hour on Sundays to be learning or a Tuesday night for 30 minutes? Like block time for the things that you care about, just like you spend time with your family or working out or doing hobbies or hanging out with friends. Relationships are super, super important. Make sure that you're finding time in the week of your busy week to do the one thing that's gonna invest in yourself, that's gonna be the thing that's gonna make you stay low and keep moving.
Mm,
So, for me, it's always hacking my schedule and hacking my calendar, and how am I spending my time?
mm,
Because that's when small things become the big things, like, do I dedicate 1 hour a week? That's 4 hours a month. That's, how many hours a year? Like, that compounds into, like, putting effort towards something.
yeah, that's so important because, I was just seeing this week, like I had some meetings kind of moved off my calendar and like just that 1 hour makes a big difference. Like 1 hour of unstructured time instead of filling it with something or task. So important.
Yeah, I talk a little bit in the book about how much effort it takes to do nothing.
Mm. Oh my gosh, I have to
'Cause
go
we
read that.
Yeah, because we always think about, like, we need to be busy, we need to be
Right, right.
productive, but, like, having time in your calendar to do nothing is
Yeah.
important. 'Cause that's when I'm a very reflective person, like, I like to reflect on things. I maybe sometimes overthink, but I like to think through. I'm like, "Are we doing this right? Or should we be doing this different? Is there something new we should be focusing on?" Like, I need to have that time to think. If I'm constantly on the wheel and just executing, 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 I'm not taking input from the market or what's happening in trends or what's happening in culture, what's happening with people, what's happening with my team. You need to pause.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if I wanna be, a good writer or I wanna be good at giving good strategy, I need to be intaking information from multiple sources so that I can feel well-read and I can feel well-versed on a topic.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, this is so many gems in this one, folks. So, Ma, how can people find you? And we'll also leave some of this information in the show notes.
Yes. First of all, I'd love them to follow me on LinkedIn and join my newsletter. I put out a weekly newsletter with free nuggets. So you can find me on social media. My first name, my last name, Maha Abouelenein. It's hard to spell, so hopefully people look it up. You can follow me on Instagram. And then I do a lot of workshops and I do a lot of free sessions and freebies for people to teach them how to get free publicity or how to build or start their own podcast. So I would love to connect with the community. If you read the book, tag me, tell me what was your favorite rule or what's the rule that you're going to implement and stick to in 2025. I think that's the most exciting thing to see is how people are taking these rules and putting it to work. At the end of every chapter, there are reflection exercises, there's a cheat sheet and a summary so you can take these rules and put them to work.
Yeah, that's I know I'm going to be subscribing to the newsletter today because there's so
Good.
many gems in today that I think resonate with me personally and I also think will resonate with some of our clients. So, thank you so much Maha for joining us and thank you.
Pleasure's mine.
Yeah, yeah, this is great. I'm so glad we were connected and introduced and I know this is just the beginning of our relationship. And thank you everybody
Yes.
that's watching or listening. Just a reminder, we are also on YouTube now, so you could find us on Change Coaches. On the Change Coaches YouTube, you could find the Leading Below the Surface podcast episodes. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.